So today I'm totally tearing up the ladder in Mythic with a deck that opponents really struggle to deal with. We have a perfect game plan against today's meta, and I just can't wait to show you this one. Hey everyone, Hex here, and today I'm 9-1 on the Mythic ladder with a deck that seems to counter all the current meta decks. Don't forget though to like, and if you haven't yet, subscribe below. It massively helps out, and I want to thank you all for the support that you give this channel. But onto this deck, and today I'm in Boros with a 2-phase game plan with a sub-theme to deal with those mono red decks. So phase 1 is to use our creatures to jam as much damage as possible, and today I'm mainly talking about Prowess. We're running Swiftspears and Monastery Mentors, each attack well but each have Prowess. The Mentor crucially creates monks with Prowess, so it's a great way to get loads of quick damage through. We're running Monstrous Rage 2 to quickly increase our power. This is one of my favourite cards out of Wilds of Eldraine for any aggro deck. Normally at this point we're going to be facing Path of Perils, Sunfalls or Depopulates, normally Game Ruiners, but today our deck pivots to phase 2 of our game plan, the Burn. Who needs creatures when we have Play with Fires, Lightning Strikes and Heartflame Slash, the adventure side of Heartflame Duelist, to take us over the line? The sub-theme in this deck is Lifegain, mainly to outpace those mono-red and other aggro decks, so alongside the Sacred Fires for 2 life drains and the Duelist which give lifelink to our other burn spells, we're playing Angelfire Ignition. This card has always been a favourite of mine. It allows you to put 2 +1/+1 counters on a target creature, and it gains Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, Indestructible and Haste until end of turn. This is a beautiful card played with Prowess creatures, and it has Flashback, so you can normally cast the card the following turn too. Finally, to complement our strategies, I've got some Voice of the Blessed, which get counters each time you gain life, and I'm playing some Regal Bunnicorns. The card is just pure gas, and when you have several monks on the battlefield, this gets very big very quickly. I'm running 23 lands today, including some Restless Bivouacs, and that's the deck. So there are infinite alternatives if you want to drop the life game theme or add some blue, but like I mentioned, I currently am at 9-1 in just 37 minutes, with my only loss coming against a Simic Poison deck where we were just never in the game. But I feel that this deck is the perfect deck for the meta that I mostly face today. If you, however though, have any thoughts on this deck, you can let me know in the comments below. You can find me over on Twitter, and as always, thank you for watching. Alright, on the play, hand is okay, except for our sketchy land. We could do with an untapped land. We've got the Wind-Scarred Crag in the deck. Gains a life and hopefully can trigger our Voice of the Blessed a bit later in the game. It does fix the Boros lands. Opponent with a Brush land and a Commune with Spirits. Okay, so probably up against an enchantment deck here. So I feel confident that we can outpace those kind of decks. So we get another tap land, this time a Restless Bivouac. So our hand is very sort of burn heavy here, but opponent with a Spirited Companion to draw them a card. So a pretty slow start for us. They don't actually have any basics, so I feel pretty protected against ossification. So let's drop this Monastery Mentor here. Fingers crossed they don't draw a basic land. And it is a Thicket instead. Okay, that is a Generous Visitor. So I quite like where we are so far, as long as we can dodge any more removal. And it is another dog. So our hand being the way it is, and the fact that our Mentor can produce a lot of monks, I feel pretty comfortable where we are as we find a Plains. Okay, so I could attack here and then we could use the Prowess on the Mentor, but I'm just going to hold out for a minute. I feel like next turn we're going to do some major damage here to our opponent. Hallowed Haunting, okay. Alright, well, let's just start eating away at their creatures, creating some monks here. So obviously we're missing the Prowess triggers on the Mentor, but we're creating monks in the meantime, and next turn's going to be pretty devastating. So we'll just shoot this dog, as it's in the way. The only problem with these Mentors is they don't have Trample. If we find a Play with Fire, okay, this is going to be a massive turn. We'll shoot this Visitor, we'll get that out of the way. We can Lightning Strike the face, and there are Prowess triggers going around everywhere here, and Monstrous Rage on our Mentor, and this is a huge attack. I don't know if this is lethal. That is 16 damage, but opponent scoops it up anyway. Alright, on the play here. Now, the hand is okay. We are a little bit creature light. We're kind of reliant on the Voice of the Blessed surviving, and normally it doesn't. It's a creature that opponents tend to prioritize killing. Luckily, the opponent has just played a forest, so fingers crossed they don't have like a black land to follow up with. And they are maybe on mono green, and they looks like they could well be as they play a Beside You, and that's a Bramble Familiar. Okay, well, what I think we'll do here is use our Sacred Fire and take care of the Familiar, gain 2 life, then that will boost the power of the Voice of the Blessed, and we'll just attack our opponent with 3. Next turn we have the Angelfire Ignition if the opponent doesn't have a way to deal with our creature. Yeah, this is looking pretty strong. We'll just shoot the opponent here with the Play with Fire. And land is always good for us. So 4th land means we can Angelfire Ignition our Voice. And it's going to be a 5/5. It has Indestructible, Trample, Haste. All sorts of lovely goods from the Angelfire Ignition there. And it will get a +1/+1 counter as the creature has lifelink, so it's now a 6/6, and that means it's flying. Opponent with their 4th mana though. And there's Gwenna. Oh, I don't think that's going to do it. I don't think that's going to do it at all, because we can shoot the opponent with the Play with Fire here. Put them down to 8. And next turn we have the Angelfire Ignition to take us over the line. Yeah, opponent has to scoop it up. Easy. Alright, on the play, and I don't think we can keep this hand. If we had a creature, I'd be fine with it. This hand is better, as we have the Swiftspear. We're going to have to put the Voice of the Blessed to the bottom. We just don't have white mana to be casting that. And we'll play the Swiftspear and attack our opponent to 19. So if you wanted to remove the life gain sort of aspect of the deck, things like the Voice of the Blessed could be obviously taken out. And you could put maybe some double strikers in there. But I really like having the life gain to counteract these mono red decks, making sure that we keep our life total above 0 whilst doing enough damage to kill them ourselves. And we've got the opponent down to 13. We'll see what they do. They go to attacks with the battery. I'm just going to take the damage. I'm just going to keep this Play with Fire, and I'm going to take care of this 1/1 if they don't do anything else. And they don't. So best to keep the creature off the battlefield, I think, anyway. Okay, it's just a Monstrous Rage. I really need another land here. Quite a low curve, though, our deck, but finding a white mana would be perfect. See if they react to our Monstrous Rage. If they have a spell in their hand, maybe a Lightning Strike. Or Soul Partition, that's not the end of the world. We can still cast the Swiftspear next turn if we find a land. So opponent looks like they are on Naya colours. I'm not really sure what to expect. So we're definitely looking at maybe pivoting to a more burn style deck here, especially drawing the Sacred Fire there. So we've got 8 damage in our hand and a Swiftspear on deck in exile at the minute, so pretty happy with that. I do like our game plan here, especially if the opponent finds a way to gum up the board with maybe like a wedding announcement or something. But I don't actually know what I'm necessarily playing against. Yeah, Catilda. They take 2 damage for that though from their pain lands. That could well come back to haunt them because we are just going to burn them out now. And that's a Swiftspear, so not a land, unfortunately. But we can certainly jam with this, see if they want to block. They don't. They go down to 5, and we have 5 damage in our hand. So as long as they can't gain instant speed life, we should be okay if we can find a land. A white land, if possible. Untapped as well. And that is Audacity onto the Catilda, and I think they're going to try and beat us down now. We go down to 15. Okay, Play with Fire, sure. Well, this time we're just going to shoot their face, I think, because we can take them down to 1. So we did miss 1 damage very early on in this game, or a little bit of damage when we took care of the rabbit battery instead of shooting their face. They would be dead now had we not done that. But they are down to 1 now. We know there's a Wind-Scarred Crag on the top, so we know that we have lethal in 2 turns. I guess we can attack here with our Swiftspear. They have to block, or they have to find a way to deal with this creature. And they block with their Catilda, okay. I guess they draw a card when Audacity hits the graveyard. Yeah, and we'll just jam our land here, and next turn we have lethal with the Duelist or the Sacred Fire. I think I'll cast the Duelist as that's going to do 3 damage, and if the opponent has a spell that can protect their creature and give them 2 life, I forget what it's called, then I will want to do 3 damage to them. So Heartflame Slash here does 3 damage to any target, straight to the opponent's face. Yeah, and that's enough to take us over the line. Alright, on the draw, our hand is absolutely great. It's nice to have loads of creatures early on, that's what we want to do. Opponent with a Teething Wormlet, okay. So, presumably an artifact-themed green deck. I approve that deck, I do like the Wormlet, I think it's a very good card actually. And it looks like they're on Gruul. And that is a Gala Greeters. Okay, so each time a creature enters the battlefield, they can create a treasure, which can start pumping up the Wormlet. So I think we're going to want to shoot that Gala Greeters. And I'm just going to do it in the most mana-efficient way possible by using our Sacred Fire. Keeping the play with fire, because we might be able to use that in conjunction with our Monastery Mentor. But I think it was important to get Gala Greeters off the battlefield. Not only does it ramp, but it also powers up this Wormlet. Of course, they follow up with another Gala Greeters and a Gingerbrute. Okay, so Gingerbrute is the artifact that's going to trigger the Wormlet anyway. But they still make a treasure. The Wormlet can only have a counter each time an artifact enters the battlefield once per turn, I think it is, or once per their turn. So we've got a couple of options here. We can just slash their Wormlet, or the slightly greedier play, I think, of playing the Mentor and next turn using our burn spells. So we are now hoping that they don't have a removal spell for our Mentor. Swiftspear also nicely blocks the Gingerbrute, as it has haste. But opponent with Pia Nala, okay, so slightly off meta deck we're facing. I do like Pia Nala. That's going to create Thopters, which are artifacts, which will trigger the Wormlet. Also trigger Gala Greeters. So loads of really cool synergies from our opponent here. And they get in there with their Wormlet. And the Thopter, so that's 4 damage coming my way. Well, I'm not going to block either. The Wormlet now has Death Touch because they have 3 artifacts on the battlefield. And that is a Voice of the Blessed, okay. Alright, well we need to shoot some of these creatures. Firstly, let's take care of Pia Nala. That creates a 1-1. And play with fire the Gala Greeters as well. Too much value. And I guess we attack as we have some decent prowess triggers on our 2 creatures. Take the opponent down to 14. So I feel like this is a kind of game where our life gain here and there is going to help us. Especially if they're playing a lot of little 1-2 drops. They got a Dissident out, which puts a counter on their Thopter because they played a Gingerbrute. So this is going to be a big attack by them, I guess. Both Gingerbrutes are being activated, so they can't be blocked. And the Thopter and the Wormlet comes in. I'm going to block the Wormlet. We go down to 8. And that is another Mentor. Okay. Okay, so we're not in the greatest position, but I think what we need to do here... I really want to get the Voice of the Blessed down and start making this massive, but I think in this instance we're going to need to double spell with the Mentor and the Duelist. Take some damage here, unfortunately. And we have a attack here with our 2/2. Yeah, they go down to 13. Yeah, we can block one of the Ginger Brutes, and I'll happily chump the 4/4. There's another Wormlet coming down. They sacrifice a Ginger Brew, okay. I'm not sure if they meant to do that or they meant to activate it to give it haste, but they go up to 16 anyway, and we find our 6th mana. Well, I'm just going to cast the Voice of the Blessed here, and then we can follow up with our Wind-Scarred Crag. That will make the Voice of the Blessed a 3/3. Next turn we have Sacred Fire online, so we can boost the power of the Voice of the Blessed even more, and I'm just going to sit back slightly. We're at a bit of a stalemate here. I could do with some burn spells. And they get in there with their 2/2 Thopter. Can't do anything about that. We find another Mentor. Alright, well, I'm just going to deal with this Thopter. I think this is going to be the big problem for us here. A whole bunch of Prowess triggers. Oh, an opponent scoops it up. I think that might have been a little bit premature by our opponent there, but I'll take the win. Alright, on the play. Pretty good hand. We'll keep this one, I think. No, like, early plays. I would like a Monastery Swiftspear or a Play with Fire. Opponent with an island. Alright, well, we're going to just play this Voice of the Blessed. Get this onto the battlefield. And it looks like we're up against Azorius. Okay. Alright, well, it's going to attack. And just shoot their face. No counters. They go down to 15 already. So that is a big turn there. And here comes Urza, Lord Protector. Okay, so that is a 2/4 in our way. But we can smash straight through that with our Angelfire Ignition here. So we just need to try and outpace our opponents here, because Urza reduces the cost of instants or sorceries, so there could well be a board wipe coming soon. But our Voice of the Blessed is a 5/5 now. And next turn we have the Angelfire Ignition again to take this Voice even higher. Our opponent has a Sunfall. Turn 4 Sunfall, okay. Alright, well, let's drop one of these rabbits. Let's drop our Duelist, and we will rebuild again. But one of the reasons I built this deck was because I was facing so many turn 5 Sunfalls that I wanted to make sure that up until that point we do as much damage as possible. In this case, 9 damage, and then we switch. We pivot rolls to a burn style deck. Opponent does give us a Power Stone with the Thran Spider, which is great because that actually increases the stats on our Bunnicorn. So I'm just going to Angelfire the Duelist here. We'll play the other bunny, and we will attack the opponent for 9. And if they want to just take this, that's fine. We have a Restless Bivouac in our mana base there, so we can do a lot of sort of quick damage if we need to. Opponent goes down to 6 though. Yeah, and I'm really happy with where we are. We've got Sacred Fire in our hand, which is obviously 2 damage to our opponent. And then the following turn will be another 2 damage. Opponent with Invasion of New Phyrexia makes 4 2/2s. Okay, well, I think we're just going to jam, because our Restless Bivouac here is going to be a 2/2 that we can put a counter on something else, and I will put the counter on the Duelist. We'll see how they block. They have to block a fair bit of this. They are on 6 life. So they chump all round. They have no mana open, so we should be okay with lethal here, because we just let all this damage happen and then just shoot their face with Sacred Fire. I'm not sure if the opponent blocks correctly then, but again, I'll take the win. Okay, on the play here. with a pretty nice hand. Unfortunately, we don't have an untapped red mana for the turn 1. But I'll deal with that in a moment. We'll start off by playing our Wind-Scarred Crag, gain us a life. An opponent with a tapped farmland, okay. Well, we'll get the Swiftspear down and we'll attack. And we'll see how we can get on going forward. Our hand is pretty nice if we can drop these 2 mentors, to be honest. And up the beanstalk for our opponent. So looking at a ramp style deck. So I think we'll just attack with the Swiftspear and play the mentor. I'm guessing we just want to do as much damage before a Sunfall hits on turn 5. And I feel like we can do that. That is an Ignition. Alright, so I think we just jam here, and then we'll see what happens. Okay, it goes to damage, so let's Monstrous Rage our Swiftspear. Create a 1/1. That is a March of Otherworldly Light. Okay, so I know what deck they're playing now. We'll just play the other Monstrous Rage on the Mentor here. They're playing the Control deck, the 5-color Control deck, where a lot of their cards are X-cost cards like Syncopate. The marches to try and get some value out of Upper Beanstalk. But opponent, I feel like they have something in their hand. It's another March of Otherworldly Light. They're having to exile some cards to do that. So that was a lot of resources from our opponent. They do take care of 2 of our best creatures though. And they did have to pitch a Wandering Emperor and a Sunfall there just to get rid of our Monastery Mentor. But we will Angelfire Ignition the 1/1 here. Opponent has a Make Disappear. Alright. So they certainly come with all the tools to get through this game. I am worried about a Sunfall right now. It is Zergo, which triggers up the Beanstalk. Nice little combo there. As they will get to keep replaying Zergo each turn. If they put it back in their hand, that is. And they do elect to do that, okay. Well, I guess we just shoot the opponent for 4 here with both our Sacred Fires. And attack them with our Prowess Monks. They're going to go down to 4. And I kind of like where we are, really. Yeah, opponent couldn't keep up with that one, and they scoop it up. Okay, on the play. Hand is pretty nice. Not going to complain about this one. Opponent is keeping 7, and we'll play our Forge as we can cast our Play with Fire if needed. And they just have a Forest. And that is a Bivouac for us, but I want to get this Voice of the Blessed down here instead. And opponent with a Mirex, okay. Okay, they anoint our creature there, so exiled, but we look like we're up against a toxic style deck. And that is a Monastery Mentor for us. Opponent has no follow-up play though. So I'm presuming that they are green-black or a Abzan deck. But they've only got green mana open, so let's cast the other Mentor here. And we'll just hit the opponent for 2. I'm not going to play with fire just yet, as I'm going to get greedy and play it next turn. They missed their land drop. Okay, this is going to be a big attack by us, isn't it? So we get to play our Bivouac, Angelfire Ignition onto one of our Mentors. And this is going to be a big attack here for 8. Pop the opponent down to 10. We could have cast Play with Fire, but I'm going to be greedy again and hold that for next turn, because we can then give Prowess to everything else, but opponent scoops it up. Alright, on the draw, and I really like our hand here. Very powerful. Could play our tap land, but I think I'm going to play the Forge and just hold open Play with Fire. Opponent's played a Swamp, so I just want to make sure I can deal with any early creatures they play, and it doesn't look like they're going to play anything. So we have a Lightning Strike there. And let's play our Arganjo. And we will just pass the turn. I'm going to play slightly conservative, see how we get on this way. I feel like their hand must be just jammed with removal spells. So let's just go with one now, Voice of the Blessed, and we'll cast we'll play the Crag here to put a counter on our Voice here. Yep, opponent has a cut down, so probably up against just a ton of removal. So this is where our burn spells can come in handy. Guess we'll play the Swiftspear here and we will attack. Again, it could shoot our opponent's face, but I want to just hold this open for anything that they play. As sometimes if they play like a Trespasser or something, we're going to need to get that out of the way with the Lightning Strike, but opponent cuts down our Swiftspear. This time we'll just strike their face. Put them down to 16. And there's another land, so we're good at drawing lands here. I think we'll just channel our Sokenzan and we will hit the opponent down to 14. Yeah, any sort of Trespassers, any Sheoldreds, they're going to become blockers that are going to get in the way of our early game plan. So I don't mind taking out or holding back burn spells in case they play creatures, just like this Spirited Companion. And we will shoot the Companion and we will do 4 damage to our opponent. So they're down to 10. We have a Bunnicorn and a Duelist in our hand. And there's another removal spell, Go for the Throat. So they couldn't target our 1/1s with their Go for the Throat. And we'll just do 3 damage to our opponent. They're down to 7 now, and that's another Bunnicorn for us. So I'm nervous about Path of Peril. I'm very nervous about Path of Peril. That would clear our board. But I am going to put enough creatures on the battlefield that if they only have like a Go for the Throat, then we should still have enough damage to get through next turn. They do find their 3rd mana though. And that is a wedding announcement, and that is not going to save them. We have 5 damage even if they block our biggest creature, and they scoop it up.